I'm 28, male, and life hasn't exactly handed me an easy ride. I've worked for everything I have, clawing my way through 2 part-time jobs just to scrape together enough for community college. My parents, though not wealthy, always gave the impression that they were struggling. Whenever I'd bring up help with tuition, they'd sigh and say, "We'd love to, but we just can't afford it right now." I believed them for years, until recently. The catalyst for all this came on a chilly Sunday afternoon. I had stopped by their house, an obligatory visit, if I'm being honest. We've never been close. My younger sister, on the other hand, is the golden child. She's 25, bubbly, and has always been their favorite. She gets what she wants without lifting a finger. I tried not to resent it, convincing myself they were just trying to protect her from the hardships I endured. That day, the conversation veered to my sister's new house hunt. She and her fiancé had been looking for months, and apparently, they'd finally found the one. I congratulated her, though inwardly, I wondered how they were going to swing the down payment. Neither of them had high-paying jobs. Then, out of nowhere, my mom dropped the bombshell. Well, we gave her the $50,000 she needed for the down payment. To help her get started. I froze. Wait, you gave her how much? Oh, don't make it a big deal, my dad chimed in, clearly annoyed. She's our daughter. It's our money. I stared at them, the pieces clicking into place. For years, they'd told me they were too broke to help with my tuition. I'd taken out loans, accrued debt, and lived on ramen noodles. Yet here they were, casually handing over 50 grand to my sister. You couldn't spare anything for my education, but you can give her 50 grand for a house. My voice was shaking, but I didn't care. It's different, my mom said, her tone patronizing. College isn't a guarantee of success. A house is an investment. An investment? I repeated, incredulous. You didn't even give me the chance to prove myself. Do you know how much I've struggled because of those loans? The nights I've gone to bed hungry just to keep the lights on? Don't guilt us, my dad snapped. We did the best we could. Did you? I shot back. Or did you just choose her over me? My sister, of course, tried to play peacemaker. Come on, I didn't ask them to do this. They offered, and you didn't think to say, maybe this should go to my brother, who actually needs it. I was furious, years of resentment boiling over. Stop being dramatic, my mom said, rolling her eyes. She's starting a family. You're just working. That was it. I left, slamming the door behind me. That night, I couldn't sleep. The betrayal cut deep, but more than that, I was angry at myself for trusting them. I started digging through old paperwork, pulling up every email and text exchange I'd had with them about college. I found dozens of messages where they claimed they couldn't help me, not even with a few $100s. I was done being their afterthought. I wanted them to feel the sting of their choices, and I had an idea how to do it. First, I called a lawyer. I wanted to know if there was any legal recourse for the way they'd treated me. While my lawyer confirmed that there wasn't much I could do about the unequal financial treatment, it was their money to spend, he did point out something interesting. My parents had co-signed one of my private student loans. If I defaulted, they'd be on the hook for it. It was petty. It was vindictive, and I didn't care. The next day, I drafted a carefully worded letter to the loan company, informing them I would no longer be making payments on the loan. I copied my parents on the email. Within hours, my phone was blowing up. "You can't just stop paying," my dad yelled when I finally picked up. "I can, and I will," I said coolly. "Remember, it's an investment." "This isn't fair," my mom screeched. "We co-signed that loan to help you." "Help me? You mean the way you helped her?" I countered. "I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine." They threatened to sue me. I laughed and told them to go ahead. It wasn't illegal to default on a loan. The fallout was swift. The loan company started hounding them for payments, and they were forced to dip into their savings to cover it. Meanwhile, I used the money I'd been paying toward the loan to hire a financial advisor, who helped me consolidate my remaining debt and build a path to financial freedom. But I wasn't done yet. I started sharing my story online, detailing the years of neglect and favoritism. It wasn't about revenge at first, I just wanted to vent. But the post went viral, and suddenly, strangers were weighing in, expressing outrage on my behalf. Some even started digging into my parents' social media profiles, leaving scathing comments about their parenting. When my mom called, sobbing about the harassment, I told her she had only herself to blame. "You made your bed," I said. "Now lie in it." They tried to guilt me, of course. My mom's favorite tactic was to play the victim. "We raised you. We sacrificed so much for you. And this is how you repay us," she wailed during one particularly heated phone call. I didn't let her off the hook. "Sacrifice for me? Are you serious?" "I sacrificed my future because you said you couldn't afford to help me. Now I know that wasn't true. You just didn't think I was worth it." "It's not the same," she snapped. "Your sister needed that money more than you. She's starting a family, and I'm building a life," I interrupted. "Or did you forget that your choices forced me to start from zero while saddled with debt? You made it clear who mattered more, and I'm done pretending I'm okay with it." When the guilt didn't work, they switched to anger. My dad threatened to disown me. "You're acting like a spoiled brat," he said. "You don't get to punish us because life didn't go the way you wanted." "No," I shot back, my voice cold. "I'm holding you accountable for the way you treated me." Big difference. The more I pushed back, the more cracks began to show in their entitled facade. My sister, ever the golden child, decided to wade into the mess. She called me one evening, her voice dripping with faux concern. "Look, I get why you're upset," she said. "But don't you think you're taking this a little too far? Mom and Dad are really stressed. They're not young anymore, and all this drama isn't good for them." I laughed bitterly. "Stressed? They should have thought about that before playing favorites. And don't pretend you're innocent in all this. You accepted that money knowing exactly what it meant for me." She bristled. "I didn't ask for it. They offered. And you took it," I interrupted. "You could have said no. You could have told them to be fair, but you didn't. You're just as complicit." Her tone shifted. Defensive now. "Well, maybe they thought you didn't deserve it. You're always so bitter and angry. Maybe if you were more like me." "Stop," I cut her off, my patience snapping. "You don't get to gaslight me. This isn't about me being bitter. It's about them valuing your happiness over my future. So spare me the lecture." She hung up on me after that, and I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. For once, they were feeling the consequences of their actions, and I wasn't going to let them squirm out of it. Things escalated when my parents decided to fight fire with fire. They hired a lawyer, trying to force me to resume payments on the loan. Their argument? That I had promised to pay it back and was now reneging on that promise. It was laughable. My lawyer tore through their case like tissue paper, pointing out that they'd willingly co-signed the loan and were fully aware of the risks involved. The case was dismissed before it even made it to court. I thought that would be the end of it, but my parents, desperate and spiteful, tried one last dirty trick. They called my employer and tried to sabotage my job. My boss pulled me aside one day, looking awkward. "I just got a strange call from someone claiming to be your father." He was less than complimentary. I felt my stomach drop. "What did he say?" "He implied you were unreliable, said you couldn't be trusted with financial responsibilities." It didn't seem to add up, so I wanted to talk to you first. I was livid. "I'm sorry you got dragged into this. My parents and I are estranged, and this is their way of retaliating." Fortunately, my boss believed me and dismissed their claims. But the fact that they'd stooped so low to jeopardize my livelihood was the final straw. That night, I sent them a message that left no room for interpretation. "I'm done. You've proven time and time again that you don't respect me or my efforts to build a life for myself. Trying to ruin my job was a new low, even for you. I blocked your numbers and email. Don't contact me again. You've lost the privilege of being in my life." And I meant it. I cut them off completely, deleting every form of contact. It wasn't easy. There were moments where the weight of that decision felt unbearable, but it was necessary. For the first time in my life, I was prioritizing me. Months passed, and the fallout from my decision was immediate. Without me as their scapegoat, my parents were forced to confront the financial mess they'd created. My sister, it turned out, wasn't as grateful as they'd hoped. She began leaning on them for more and more support, and their savings quickly dwindled. One day, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that they'd been forced to sell their home to cover mounting expenses. Apparently, my sister and her fiancé had broken up, leaving them stuck with the mortgage on the house they'd helped her buy. The irony wasn't lost on me. I wish I could say I felt bad for them, but the truth is, I didn't. They made their choices, and now they were living with the consequences. As for me, cutting them out was the best decision I've ever made. I'm thriving now, debt-free, financially stable, and finally at peace. Sometimes people ask if I'll ever forgive them. My answer is simple. Forgiveness is earned, not given. And they've done nothing to earn mine. If you enjoyed reading about their downfall as much as I enjoyed living through it, subscribe. You never know, there might be more tales of entitlement and karma coming your way.